There are far too many people I met, engineers, doctors, lawyers, naval officers, politicians, bureaucrats, completely clueless about the world at large, only have knowledge about their own professional niche area of expertise. Think about it and tell me if I'm wrong. When I say a guy is educated, I mean he broadly is aware of the distillate of the experience of Homo sapiens on this planet. If I put it in a way you might understand, and I put it in a chronological fashion. So the oldest thing we know is the cosmos around us. 13.6 billion years ago, the Big Bang. So that takes us to cosmology. So an educated man knows a little bit about cosmology. So what is the next thing that happened after the universe? The earth formed, correct, at some stage. Then what happened? Life appeared. If you're educated, you will know a little bit about the cosmos, about the earth, about life and how it evolved, about man and how he appeared, to the point we are sitting here as Homo sapiens sapien. Imagine if you go through life and not know how the earth developed its oxygenated atmosphere so that life could appear. You could pass a whole lifetime without knowing this. And you would be, the only loser would be you, nobody else, because you have missed out on this wonder. I do believe that all of us actually are interested in the big picture. We like the big canvas. But we don't get time because of our various pressures. We don't get time to even read or forget, think, or do anything about the big picture. We lose sight of the panoramic view. As technology, as you guys shrink the planet, I am going to paint one such tapestry of global geopolitics, one big picture. Basically, therefore, if I talk about geopolitics, I have to talk about the contemporary world order. There is an order in the world, or disorder if you wish to call it, but you must know what it is, because you don't ever think about it. What is the present world order? Anybody? There's an actual term for the present world order, which we all live in. It is called the Westphalian world order. Our present world order derives its name from something called the Peace of Westphalia, which was signed in 1648. With Westphalia, the religious hold was lost, and the rulers of all their countries could follow policies and choose their religions and choose the way they wanted to take their country by themselves. And this led to nationalism. How do we live in this world? US, China, America, India, Pakistan, etc. What are these? These are nation states. But they were not always there. There was no concept of the nation state till the Peace of Westphalia. This whole concept of the nation state is only 350 years old. Very, very recent. So we live in the Westphalian system. And as I said, it respects borders and it's supposed to be non-interference. But do either of these things happen? There is no respect for borders. And everybody interferes in everyone's internal affairs. And beneath the veneer of civilization, might is still right. And what somebody said many long years ago, Thucydides, at the end of the Peloponnesian Wars, the strong do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. Because it is anarchic, nations maintain expensive militaries. And that's why there's always a balance of power. And that's why nations like kids form gangs and allies and pacts for mutual security. Because you don't get security otherwise. Now this may seem like a joke, it's not, it's a fact. From Westphalia till 1815, the major European powers were fighting with each other. All the conflicts were here, colonial, where these powers were trying to consolidate. But the 19th century saw the beginnings of global geopolitics. There were standing militaries, arms races, balance of power. Each was trying to outdo the other, big fleets, big armies, standing armies. There was no air force, obviously, till the 1915s. So it was an army-navy race in between these imperial powers. And we had the start of the First World War, which was basically because of nationalism in Europe and various pacts and treaties between European powers and an arms race between them. We had the Russian Revolution. We had an experiment with the League of Nations, which was a precursor to the United Nations. It failed. And then America went into a Great Depression, and Russia went into communism, and Spain and Italy went into fascism. and there was a whole disorder in the world which led to the Second World War. And what you and I are interested now is the world order at the end of the Second World War. The moment the Second World War ended in 1945, the Cold War started between two rival blocs. And it was also the start of the space age. And it was also the start of the electronic age and high tech. And it was also the start of the United Nations, all in the last 70 years. And it was also the start of India as a modern nation state. So what we'll now look at a little bit is geopolitics as it has existed over the last 70 years and what is driving it today. The 21st century started very differently. In the last 20 years, during your lifetime, these have been the geopolitical drivers of the world. Terror showed its face in its most starkest form in the US World Trade Centers, but also everywhere around the world, from Kashmir to everywhere else. There was a huge surge of terror. And this terror led to what the Americans call the global war on terror, but it ended with a lot of conflicts which the Americans initiated in Iraq, in Kuwait, in Syria, even now. And many people think the terrorists have won because they've changed our way of life. The world is less free as a whole today than it was in the 2000. It was a much simpler world, but terror has changed that world. Globalization is just not trade or manufacturing. It is globalized schemes, whether in aviation, Interpol, logistics, the internet itself. The global village as one community has sunk into the global consciousness, and that is having its own problem for nation states. Nation states today are not as sovereign as they were in the 20th century. Today when you sign a climate accord or you sign a trade protocol, then you give up part of your sovereignty. You say, I'll abide by this, and then you have to abide by that. And therefore, you have this whole business of globalization which is changing the world. From geostrategy and geopolitics, we now come to geoeconomics. There are different routings, different trade pacts, different FTAs, free trade agreements between nations. You will see all this as a blur in your newspapers. But that's the world you live in. The FTA will affect your life more than your engineering degree, let me assure you. So you should know what an FTA is. What's the most favored nation status between two countries? What is the economics on a global scale? How is funding really done? What is this world of finance? Just like the world of tech is like a black ball which no one wants to enter outside the tech. The whole world of finance, you leave to the finance guys. The world of politics, you leave to the politician. The world of the military, you leave to the military. But you mustn't. You must get into it to understand your world. So in my own way, I've come to talk to you to try and tell you that there is much to learn, and much to learn not for the sake of being educated or calling yourself educated, but in the sheer pleasure of knowledge. If you get addicted to the pleasure of knowing in your life, then it's hallelujah for you, for your kids, for your family, for the next generation, and your entire outlook on life becomes broader, more Catholic, more tolerant, more aware, because you realized where we are in the scheme of things.